What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York, calling from the quarantine zone again. And this time we are here with Nick of Blindfolded and Led to the Woods. Thank you so much for your time today. It's great for you to be here.
No worries, man. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's got a great time because Friday I was jamming a brand new album called Nightmare Withdrawals. This album is brutal from start to finish. I really want to know what the thought process was behind the making of this. Was there like a preconceived idea? Was there like a goal you had in mind? Was there a lot of improvising? How did Nightmare Withdrawals see the light of day?
It was a pretty organic process, really. Sort of Stu, the guitarist, he's like the main songwriter, so he comes up with like the backbone of most of the songs and then gives them to us, and we sort of add our own flavor to them. But as the writing process went on, there was this kind of just a lot of similar vibes throughout the songs, and then of course when the lyric writing started to happen. Stu and Stace, the vocalist, they sort of share the lyric writing, and there was a lot of similar themes. Stu has a lot of sleep terrors and things like that, so a lot of it is actually from his own personal experience. But yeah, and then just the more as we got into the recording process, it just it seemed very, there was like definitely like a cohesive theme throughout the whole thing, and we spent a lot of time this time around, like with song order and all that kind of thing, just to make it flow like a full piece, you know. So I wouldn't say it's like a total concept album, but there's definitely like loose concepts throughout the whole thing, musically and lyrically.
Yeah, I love the title in itself, Nightmare Withdrawals, because it's so open to interpretation that it just instantly draws you in. So
Yeah.
it's interesting that you mentioned that it's kind of loosely based on a concept. And what instrumentally, for you, did maybe were you approached with this idea beforehand, and maybe that helped influence how the rest of you kind of wrote the material?
A little bit. I mean, there's some. I mean, Stu, who writes most of the songs, he's not a bass player, right? So I mean, his ideas are very, very sort of basic when it comes to my part. So it's up to me, really. So I just try and find, something that kind of fits the vibe of the song. I don't want to make it too busy. I don't want to make it, or if there needs to be more space, I have to really take that into consideration. With the lyric writing, not so much, because I mean, most of that happens later. We focus on getting the music done first, and then it's sort of up to Stace and Stu to actually, write lyrics to it. But yeah, a little bit, I guess. I mean, once Stu actually talked to us about his sleep terrors and stuff, I guess subconsciously it probably seeped in, and I was like, okay, I want this to sound a little bit evil, or I want this to sound a little bit. I mean, there's some really nice moments on the album as well, which in our minds is kind of like when you're not in having a nightmare, it's just that sleep pattern where everything's good. So yeah.
Yeah, and as a bass player, obviously in rock and roll, we've all heard the terrible bass player jokes, and my thoughts and prayers are with all of you. But
yeah, it's all good.
yeah, well, you know what? All you have to reply is two musicians, Lemmy and Peter Steele. That's all you got to say right there.
Dude, Peter Steele is one of my all-time greatest inspirations. So
yeah,
yeah.
But does it help to have music prevalent before you start writing your bass parts, or have you ever maybe had a whole bass pattern written down, or maybe some sort of progression, and maybe the band could write according to that?
There's definitely some I guess some signature tricks that I use, and so I would say that when the music's written, quite often Stu will consider oh, Nick will probably do this thing here, so there's definitely a bit of that. But yeah, quite often if I'm just noodling around at home, I'll come up with something, and then maybe I'll just work out a way that it can fit. But yeah, my first priority is just learning the backbone of the song, and then sort of messing around as I see fit.
Yeah, and there's so many different techniques with bass playing too. Is there kind of a specific for not to pigeonhole you guys, but for the sort of technical death metal sort of aspect that I at least interpret your music as, but is there a certain strategy or a theoretical element, or do you think just every bass player has their own identity and anything works?
I think so, but also this time around, it's the first time on any album that I've used a pick. for some bits. I'm normally a finger style predominantly, but I use the pick in quite a few bits. There's a lot of tapping and slap popping and stuff, which is, especially the slapping stuff, is not something you associate normally with sort of technical death metal at all. But like there's a few bits where it just seemed to fit and just really help the vibe. So in terms of techniques, I just try and I definitely am open to new things. Hence using a pick. It was more of the producer that we worked with. He was just like, "Why don't you try this bit with a pick?" And there was a bit more attack in some bits. So it was kind of cool.
Yeah, it's like so diverse, I've noticed, because like a lot of like of the death metal bands, like where the bass player is also the vocalist, like Morbid Angel or Immolation or something like that. Like, they kind of have like a different technique on how they sing and play. But then like Obscura, for example, like they use like a fretless bass, and then like and then one of my personal favorite bands, Archspire. I mean, their bass player, I mean, he's fucking doing hammer-ons. He's like playing the bass like it's a guitar. So it seems like really there's no rules when it comes to bass playing. It almost seems like any principle in any other genre can be incorporated.
Oh, totally, man. And like some of those guys that you mentioned, I'm just like in awe. Like, sometimes you see them and it's just like, man, I don't, like, should I give up playing bass? Because like some of the techniques they use, I just like couldn't imagine. But, I suppose if I practiced them, I could possibly get there. But it's just, it's insane, especially in death metal, just how many bass players are pushing the boundaries, like, of just what you can do. Like I play a 6-string bass and have for the last 10 years or so, and I just don't know how these guys can play like 7, 8 or more. It's crazy.
Yeah. Oh, you use a 6-string. Does that high C really make a lot of a difference?
Yeah, I use it pretty sporadically, and we're down tuned as well. So I only use it sort of really for like sort of tapping bits, and just have to make sure that my compressor is set well enough so you can hear it.
Yeah, because with the 5-string and you're down tuned, like that low B definitely would add a little oomph. But I've seen people use 6 strings before, and I'm like, really, I wonder if that high C does make like a difference in a way.
Yeah, I mean, one of my biggest bass influences is Les Claypool from Primus. So, and I mean, he's the first guy I saw that really used like a high C, and like, with the tapping stuff, and that's kind of what made me want to do it. So I try and get it in there when I can, as long as it's audible and as long as it suits the riff or whatever,
Yeah, and I don't envy when you play live, the fucking shoulder aches you have to go through.
Oh man, yeah. I play a Warwick Corvette, and it's a heavy. It's full Babinga, so it's very heavy.
Yeah, and you're using any specific effects too as well?
So on my pedalboard, I am rocking. I've got a Dark Glass X7, which I got a couple of years ago. I used to have a Sans amp before, but for this album, man, the Dark Glass just such a clean tone, and gritty, which I really like for this. And then I've got a couple of Boss pedals, a Boss 33, a chorus, Boss chorus, and also a little boutique pedal company here in New Zealand called Pepper's Pedals. It's like a Russian Big Muff clone. It's called the Russian Doom Machine.
That sounds like an actual band.
Yeah, the last song on the album, Sigmundus, the bass intro is that pedal there. That's one of my favorite tones on the album. I spent ages dialing that in.
Yeah. And you also, with this album, collaborated with some cool guests such as Callum Gay, as well as Carl Saunders of Nile. And I mean, I actually interviewed Carl, last in 2019 before the world ended, and. I mean, that guy is a machine on the guitar. Did he maybe like teach you guys like some new things in like, or maybe like open up your minds to new ideas for the future of Blindfolded?
Yeah, absolutely, man. And so that whole thing was, so just before the world ended, Niall was supposed to play in New Zealand, and we were going to be supporting them on the shows. And then obviously the world ended, and then sort of we got in touch. We sort of just got in touch because I think Carl and posted on Facebook about doing guest spots and that kind of stuff over COVID, to keep the income rolling in, and we sort of just got in touch and was sort of said that we were gutted that we didn't get to play, and then he there was a bit of back and forth, and it's sort of just naturally we asked if he'd be interested in contributing to a track, and he said send it through, and he said he'd be pretty honest, like if he didn't like it, he wouldn't do it. So we're pretty thankful that he really dug it. So yeah, I mean, and with the couple of the guys in the band, they had like a Zoom call with him, just talked to him about all sorts of stuff, including Niall, and yeah, it was for Stu and Ben, who are like the two biggest Niall fans I know, that they were just like, it was like meeting their childhood hero kind of thing, and they definitely took some advice and things, and yeah, Carl gave us some, and obviously the vocals on that track are just, I reckon him and Stace's voice just pair so well, like they just the way, those signature lows from Carl are just outrageous. But yeah, he was such a sweet dude, and he's sort of said to keep in touch, and like, hopefully when the world opens back up, hopefully we can do something. But yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I mean, he has such a signature like riffing style. Like he just almost you didn't need to write, and you did not need to write on the album Lucid Visitation, or not Lucid Visitations, but Atop the Wings of Magpie featuring Carl Sanders of Nile. Like you just needed to have that song title. We would have known it was him.
Yeah. A couple of people said like of course you've got him on a song called that, and it's pretty. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool feeling to know that, one of the guys, I mean, I also couldn't believe that, Carl's like 58 years old now. Like this dude's been doing it for like longer than I've been alive,
Like many of the people I've interviewed.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Going back to your songwriting though, because I've noticed that this album has like a variety of different song lengths. Like you have a song like The White of the Eyes, which is just 1.5 minutes long, but then you have a song like Black Air that's just under 3 minutes, and you have a song like sort of like The Inevitable Fate of the Universe, which is, over 4 minutes. Like at what point does like the band sort of reach the satisfaction within the song that they know like this is the length it needs to be?
Yeah, it's as I said, like quite often once Stu sort of brings the backbone of the song, there might be a bit of input like, hey, maybe we should do this riff a couple more times, or maybe we should like not do it, and it just sort of naturally happens. I think The White of the Eyes actually, and being the shortest song, that was actually like Stu felt that a lot of all the other songs were getting quite long, and he wanted to write a shorter song, just to break up the intensity of the album, because I mean, like when you're listening to albums like that, it can be quite exhausting, like to listen to 40-50 minutes of death metal from start to finish, and especially if they're like all 5, 6, 7 minute songs, it can be very fatiguing. So we wanted to kind of break it up, and I mean that song in particular is kind of probably one of our more straightforward ones. I mean the outro is pretty just a bit of a headbanger, and we just wanted to have a bit of variety. But yeah, there's no real set like lengths or any, like we don't set out to try and maybe with the last song, like Stu deliberately wrote that as an outro song to be a bit longer, and hence all the strings and stuff at the end. But yeah, no, there's no real thought process there. I mean, luckily for us, we're doing this on vinyl, so as long as both sides come under 44 minutes, we're all right.
There you go. Fair enough. Just write a 44-minute long death metal song.
Yeah, well, I mean, we have joked about doing stuff like that.
Don't even joke. I mean, Bellwitch put out, granted, that Mirror Reaper album, it's an hour and a half long, but that album is so engaging. Like, you got to listen to that on a plane. You got to listen to it on a plane.
Absolutely.
Yep. And
I think the first time I heard that was on a plane. The flight was quite short as well. I didn't even get to finish it.
Oh wow, that's when you know you write a long album. Like
yeah.
But like it would be great if you have to fly to a specific location that caters to that album, and like so it always hits turbulence like right when it gets to the heavier part, and then
Yeah, there would be a bit of a journey. I used to do that a lot with there's a Phantomus album Delirium Cordia. I don't know if you know that one, but it's like it's one track and it's like 7 minutes long. It's supposed to be like the soundtrack to Surgery or whatever, and just like the bits that go up, man. I used to be able to disappear into that album, mate. Like it's kind of like that with Belch.
It's awesome. And I have 2 more questions for you, but when it comes to like the catalog of Blindfolded and Led to the Woods, because you do have a small handful of albums out now that, you know, people just discovering Blindfolded and Led to the Woods, you got to indulge in the rest of the albums. These albums are kick-ass. But like, have you always like taken a new approach to every album, or do you try to maybe stick with a sound or stick with a certain formula?
No, I mean, we definitely try and keep it fresh. I mean, all 3 albums we've recorded with different producers. We've recorded at different studios. The producer Sam, who produced this one, he actually mixed the last one, but we just really enjoyed working with him, so we wanted to like do a whole album with this guy. So yeah, I think there's a definite progression. I mean, obviously that first album came out, you know, when we were like early 20s. You know, still finding our feet, what we're trying to do. It's pretty all over the place, but you know, I feel like just as we've got older and we've matured as songwriters and just as people, there is definitely a natural progression. I mean, if you told us like 7 years ago that there were going to be some like clean sections in some songs, we would have been like, nah, get out of here, you know. So yeah, there's definitely some progression there.
You before you know it, you'll be writing some ballads.
Oh mate, we've already told Stace that he's gonna have to work on his clean vocals for the next one.
Yep, and get into a really bad relationship too, just to make it more strong.
Yeah, that's right.
And the final question I wanted to ask you is I've actually interviewed a small handful of bands from New Zealand now, and I've been calling like New Zealand like both Australia and New Zealand seem to really have like great scenes happening, but like with New Zealand in particular, with the real heaviness, I've been calling you guys the warm Sweden because
the warm Sweden.
Yeah, well, I mean, Alien Weaponry is from there, Ulcerate is from there. Yeah. I'm sure you've either played shows with them or have at least seen them. Like, is there kind of like I know that New Zealand is kind of like geographically it's pretty isolated, but like there has to be like a good sort of scene out there, right? Because I heard like Wellington is very different from Auckland and so on and so forth.
Yeah, like the scene, I guess it can be a blessing and a curse being so insular. Like, I mean, there's 5 million people in this country, so it's a pretty small scene as it is.
My city has more people than you.
Yeah, that's right. So it's pretty it's pretty easy to sort of link up and like honestly it's like 1 or 2 degrees of separation with everyone, you know. Like the best thing is like, I mean, we're in Christchurch, so the South Island, so it's sort of an hour and a half flight to Auckland, which is the biggest city. But it's like, once you meet these people, it's just such a like giving community. Like, you know, if you help a band to tour down here, then they'll help you out. If you want to go to Auckland with like, you know, help them organize and stuff. So it's pretty like cool in that regard. And you know, and thanks to like, as you said, Alien Weaponry, Ulcerate especially. There's another band from our city, Organectomy, who are doing a lot as well. They're actually putting New Zealand like on the world stage and stuff. And it's really cool. Like the shows, it's really weird. Like I never thought like I'd associate like the metal community here. Like it's such a community. Like it's such a like friendly vibe. Like everyone's always welcome, and you know, a lot. And because of the scene, the size of it, like a lot of the audience is going to be from other bands. So it's all about just like helping each other out. And especially like the dudes in Organectomy, like they're some of our best mates, and they've been like super instrumental in helping us like get a bit more exposure and doing shows with them and stuff like that. So yeah, it's definitely like it's a pretty loving scene, eh?
Yeah. Well, New Zealand just seems to be like the most loving place ever. So, like I've interviewed you. I think you're like the 4th or 5th band from New Zealand I interviewed. You're always so friendly over there. I love it.
Oh well, I mean, yeah. I don't know. It's just
you got to do a band. You all got to do a band photo shoot where you're all just smiling, like.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we tried to mix it up. We try to mix it up with our photo shoots because, like, I think just part of being in New Zealand, you kind of have to do something a little bit outrageous to even get any traction, you know. So like quite often in the past, we've done some pretty ridiculous photo shoots where it's not just like, you know, generic bands standing there looking tough. Like we did like some all standing in a field with a giant pig and that kind of thing. And you probably saw it on the press release, that poker one. We're all playing poker and that kind of thing. So it's you know, it is funny because like we have the best time when we're playing this music as well. Like we're all friends. We've been friends for over 10 years. We are smiling when we play, you know, like it's not like about being as tough as hell. It's, you know, it's actually just having a good time.
Yeah. When I was listening to the new Ulcerate album, which was one of my favorites to come out last year, that album,
it's so good, man.
I find it absurd that humans were behind the making of that album. Like it's just that good. And I'm surprised. I ordered a shirt from them, and it actually didn't take 3 years to show up. So
yeah, well, there is actually in New Zealand, there's a bit of a rumor going around that Jamie, the drummer, if he is actually human or not. So
I wouldn't be surprised if he's the Terminator. But
yeah,
yeah, I find it hard to believe that a band that made an album that dark and that intense, and same for you guys. I'm like, oh wow, they're from New Zealand. Like,
yeah.
I would expected them to be from like northern Russia, like northeast Russia.
Northern Russia. No, we're just warm Sweden, man. I love that term, mate. I'm going to use that.
So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today and for a great conversation.
Anytime, man.
Is there just anything else that you would like to promote for Blindfolded and Led to the Woods? Like being that you guys can actually have shows now pretty much, like, are you doing any shows in New Zealand, or can you?
Yeah, so we're just in the process of organising sort of a New Zealand tour. There is also talk of like a New Zealand and Australia bubble opening up, so we're hoping maybe we can get to Australia by the end of the year. But we'll see what happens. We're also like still waiting for all our vinyl to arrive, and we don't really want to do the tour without the vinyl and just COVID shipping and all that kind of stuff. It's sort of a bit on edge at the moment, but yeah, we are looking at doing some shows, and yeah, we're pretty excited. And yeah, if you're listening to this and haven't got the vinyl, you can grab it from our Bandcamp and stuff. And it looks like we are going to do a limited run of CDs as well, just because we've had heaps of people asking for CDs. But
yeah, they're going to be the next thing to come back. Like vinyl, the way that vinyl had a resurgence, CDs are going to kind of do the same thing.
Yeah, well, and then cassettes as well. You reckon?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, just we're moving backwards in life, but it's a good thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, and hopefully you could come to the States soon.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the dream. I mean, just before, you know, the album probably would have come out sooner had it not been for COVID as well. And I mean, we had some very early loose plans of getting to Europe at least. So, yeah, but obviously the States is the dream. We were lucky enough a few years ago to tour with Revocation in New Zealand, and we became pretty good friends with those guys. And they've always said if there's an opportunity to get over there, that, you know, they'll do their best to try and help make it happen. So hopefully, if the world opens up soon, that we can definitely get over there. It'd be awesome.
Yeah, Revocation was the first band I interviewed on this channel. Funny you bring that up.
Oh, awesome, man! Shout out to Brett, the bass player. He's one of the best dudes, and honestly, one of the most genuine guys I've ever met in the metal scene. And yeah, he's actually been a really big help across this album and the last album. So yeah, he's a rad dude.
Definitely. But thank you so much, everybody. Blindfolded and Led to the Woods. Be sure to pick up Nightmare Withdrawals if you haven't already. This is Alex from Heavy New York, and we will see you next time.